Israel is coming under increasing scrutiny for its treatment of Palestinians in its detention facilities. The Israeli military is currently investigating several soldiers suspected of serious crimes against a prisoner at one detention center, but human rights groups say this is not an isolated case, rather part of a widespread pattern of systemic abuse across Israel's prison system. DW correspondent Rebecca Ritters reports from Hebron, where she met with a former prisoner.
Atef Awalde was a different man after leaving prison in Israel.
How much did you lose in total?
18 to 19 kilogram.
Awalde spent more than 4 months in jail after being arrested in August 2023. He was held under what is known as administrative detention, which allows Israel to arrest and hold people without charge. He says the security services weren't after him, they wanted his son.
A lot of prisoners are detained without any accusation. I was arrested to put pressure on my son.
He says that after Hamas's deadly terror attack, conditions in the prison became a lot harsher.
As soon as the war started, every aspect of life changed. I was beaten. I had a bruise here on my face. I had blood coming out of my ears. I remember it happened in the beginning of November. They got into our cell, beat us inside, took us to the bathrooms and beat us there too.
Awalde's testimony is among many to have surfaced in the wake of October 7. In a months-long investigation, Israeli human rights organisation B'Tselem interviewed dozens of former prisoners, collating what they say is evidence of abuse across both the prison system and detention centres run by the military. The situation, they say, is so bad that Israel's prisons amount to a network of torture camps.
It was quite surprising for us to understand that what we're talking about is not single cases. It's a policy. What we see now is actually that the Israeli jail system was turned into something very different from what it was, into a place where its main objective, its main conduct is to abuse Palestinian prisoners.
Israel's prison service denies such allegations, saying they act in accordance with domestic and international law. But one case at a military detention centre has recently made global headlines. This video, obtained by Israeli media, appears to show IDF soldiers frog-marching a Palestinian detainee and then allegedly raping him, using shields to hide from the surveillance cameras. The incident took place in July at the Sde Teiman detention centre, which has held most of the Palestinians seized in Gaza since the war began. 5 soldiers are being investigated for crimes including rape. In a statement to DW, the Israeli military said it rejects outright allegations concerning systematic abuse of detainees in the Sde Teiman detention facility, including allegations of sexually abusing detainees. But whistleblowers have been speaking out about human rights abuses at the facility for months. We spoke to one on the condition of anonymity.
Everyone was handcuffed to the side of the bed. Their arms and legs were strapped separately so that any movement was impossible. They were all blindfolded. The patients I saw were naked except for a diaper.
The United States says the rights of Palestinian prisoners must be respected and has called on the Israeli government to investigate any claims of abuse. But for former detainees like Awalde, the damage has already been done.
In prison, I felt humiliation in every sense of the word. This is collective punishment, beating without any legitimate reason, just for the sake of revenge and torture. In other words, this is the true face of the occupation.
He says his experience and the experience of those around him was a tragedy, serving only to fuel their hatred and resentment of Israel.
Shai Parnes is a spokesperson for the Israeli human rights organization B'Tselem, which carried out the investigation of Israeli prisons. I asked him to tell us more about the testimonies of prisoners interviewed for the report.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I would say during this month of work, we interviewed 55 former detainees from all over the region. It includes Gazans, West Bankers, and even for Israeli Palestinians from different cities who were held in different facilities, in 16 Israeli facilities, 13 of them by the Israeli prison system, and 3 in military facilities in different ages. The youngest was 16, the oldest was 65, from both genders. And what was shocking, it is in many details, they shared pretty much the same story of severe violence, starvation, humiliation, sleep deprivation. And that's why we're saying it is routine and systematic.
The Israeli government, of course, rejects the allegations of it being systematic. But I wanted to ask you about a video obtained by Israeli media. That video that we showed part of it in our report just now, it appears to show Israeli soldiers frog marching a Palestinian detainee at a military detention center and then allegedly raping him. In a recent interview, you said you were not surprised when Israeli media released this video. Why is that not surprising to you?
Because as far as investigating itself, Israel is unable and unwilling to really investigate her conducts or investigate the decision makers and the policy makers. What we've seen for years, that every once in a while they do investigate a case when it gets major headlines in international media or in international tribunals, and they do investigate these low-ranking officers, or as you may put it, simple soldiers. But the Israel apartheid regime, the system itself, is unable and unwilling to investigate itself, its policies.
How do you explain the conditions and treatment of Palestinian prisoners described in your report? Where do you think that's coming from?
I have no idea where it's coming from, but what we've seen in the last 10 months is horrific, as you put the detainees who were released losing dozens of kilograms, what we're seeing in Gaza daily, and of course what happened in October 7th. What's going on in this region for the last 10 months must be stopped. And that's why we're calling the international community not stop condemning the actions, but put an action. And we're just having to have a ceasefire and a deal to return the hostages. This vice versa revenge and the catastrophic human rights violation going on must be stopped, and we must say that that's the international community and the international tribunal's duty to do that.
Now, Israel's prison service says that they act in accordance with domestic and international law. The Israeli military rejects allegations of systematic abuse, as we mentioned. What do you say to that?
Well, as we've seen in the report, it was the deterioration wasn't just a step in the hill. It was a process. First, when Ben Gvir was appointed, he just said it out loud that its policy is to worsen the conditions of these prisoners. And as I said, it's not one testimony or two. It's 55 from all over the region. Even some of them are Israeli citizens, and you've shown the pictures yourself of these detainees who were released. So it means even the apartheid regime couldn't find them, couldn't accuse them of anything. And we've seen together in your item just minutes ago how they walk out of prison looking like skeletons. The policy of starvation is obvious.
What can human rights organizations like yours and others do to prevent the kind of abuse described in your report?
So that's pretty much what human rights organizations have to do in their mandates. We investigate the cases. We stand side by side with the victims. In this case, the torture victims. We're trying to advocate for the victims in tribunals, in the media, in Israel media and international media. And we do everything, our mandate as a human rights organization and our reputation can what we can do to stop what's going on. And that's also part of the reason I'm speaking with you, because also your country, as a major political and economic country, can take actions to stop what we're seeing.
Mr. Parnes, thank you very much for speaking with us today. That was Shai Parnes, a spokesperson for the Israeli human rights organization B'Tselem.
Let's hear from Naji Abbas, the director of the Prisoners and Detainees Department at Physicians for Human Rights Israel. Welcome, Naji. Now, many were shocked by the findings of the B'Tselem report. Your group put out its own report in February, and you've heard similar testimony, haven't you?
Yes, and actually we are still hearing these testimonies because since October, our lawyers managed to visit hundreds of Palestinians in the detention facilities, the Israeli detention facilities. And all the prisoners and all the detainees that we are visiting are speaking and telling the same thing. They are speaking about a very systematic way of abuse, torture, and violence. We are documenting and getting testimonies and actually official documents showing a systematic way of violating every basic human rights that the Palestinians needs in the detention facilities. So the B'Tselem report just assured or gave a face when they brought these testimonies, brought a face for all the information that we are speaking loud in the 10 past months.
Yeah. How have conditions for Palestinian inmates in Israeli prisons changed since the Hamas terror attack on October 7th?
Let's say the conditions in the Israeli jails and the Israeli detention facilities shouldn't be related to what's happening in Gaza and to the attack of Hamas. It's a different system, and we are speaking about different people. Most of the Palestinian detainees nowadays are from the West Bank, not from Gaza. And regarding the condition, we are speaking about a whole different story, about a whole different situation from what we had before October. Before October, the conditions were hard. Weren't a good place to be, the Israeli jails. But after October, everything changed. Medical negligence and the lack of medical treatment became the official policy. The Israeli IPS, the Israeli Prison Service, abandoned the access of family visits, the access of the ICRC. They stopped all the medical treatment. They took all the prisoners' belongings and left them with nothing. We are visiting people that still in the same clothes since October. And now how it changed, just one fact can describe the whole situation. We are speaking now about more than 60 Palestinians who died in the detention facilities, the Israeli detention facilities since October.
Yeah, that is according to your investigations. And we're talking about Palestinians in Israeli prisons, but what does your group say is happening to Palestinian detainees within Gaza?
The Israeli army don't hold people in Gaza, inside Gaza. When they arrest people from Gaza, and now we are speaking about more 2,000 Gazan Palestinians who are in detention, they are all brought to inside Israel, and they are being held in detention facilities or under the custody of the Israeli army or under the custody of the Israeli Prison Service. And in all these facilities, neither the army or the IPS, the situation is very dangerous. What we are saying for months, that these conditions and these policies, official policies actually, the Israeli authorities are proud to speak that they are making the life of Palestinian detainees harder and harsher. These policies brought us to a situation that there are risks for every Palestinian in the detention facilities, for his health and even for his life.
This is Naji Abbas with Physicians for Human Rights Israel. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.